Assalamu alaikum. Today I will talk about dictum and tegmentum and the crus cerebri of mesencephalon. Now I will talk about the dictum. The dictum of midbrain is a region of the brain, specifically the dorsal part of the mesencephalon. This is constructed with the tegmentum. The dictum of midbrain is responsible for auditory and visual reflexes. Now I will talk about the tegmentum. The tegmentum is the ventral part of the midbrain. It is located between the ventricular system and distinctive puzzle or ventral structure at each level. Functions including arousal, consciousness, sleep-wake cycles. Now I will talk about the crus cerebri. The crus cerebri, cerebral crus, usually refers to the most anterior similar shaped bundle of white matter fiber in the midbrain. These massive crossed fibers serve as the bridge that connects each cerebral hemisphere with the opposite half of the cerebellum. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Today we want to talk about doctors who are smashing coronavirus. The first regulation center for controlling pharyngeal and esophageal pathway respiratory center. It contains dorsal and ventral group of neurons that control the rhythmic continuation of respiration. 3. Superior and inferior salivating nucleus that controls the secretion of saliva. 4. A cranial nerve nuclei. It contains 10, 11, 12 cranial nerve nucleus. 5. Vasomotor center. It controls rate of blood pressure and heart. The 6. Vomiting center. It including vomiting caused by irritating and inflammation in GIT. The 7. Vestibular nuclei. They are the second order neurons and they contain medial and inferior nucleus.
Today we topic is substantia nigra and the red nucleus function. Let's start. First of all, if we discuss about the substantia nigra, substantia nigra actually a component of the basal ganglia and it is considered as the largest nucleus of the midbrain. If we discuss about its location, it is located below the red nucleus. It is made up of large pigmented and small non-pigmented cells. These pigments have large quantity of the iron. If we discuss about its color is dark black due to the melanin pigment and it utilizes the GABA and the dopamine. If we discuss about the function of the red nucleus, as we studied some mnemonics to memorize the function of the red nucleus. Mr. Mova's skilled right eye. It controls the muscle tone, it controls the muscular movement, it controls the writing reflex, it controls the movement of the eyes. That's
wasting time. Let's discuss about the pons. For pons, we have memorized a mnemonic which is called as Talha Chauhan never cries. Basically, T stands for the tracts, pyramidal tract and medial lemniscus. C stands for the connections, middle cerebellar peduncle. N stands for the nucleus. We have the vestibular nucleus, especially the superior and lateral part of the vestibular nucleus, and cranial nerves 5, 6, 7, 8. They are also present in pons. The next one is C. C stands for the center. Pons is the center for pneumotaxic and apneustic center, yes. Plus, it is also the center for respiration. The next one, if we talk about the dorsal part of pons, so dorsal part of pons is we have the fourth ventricle. And the next one, if we talk about the ventral part of pons, in ventral part we have the nuclei plus fibers. In lateral part of pons we have the spinothalamic tract plus descending hypothalamic tract, and also medial longitudinal fasciculus is present below the fourth ventricle. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Today I will talk about the divisions of cerebellum. Cerebellum consists of central worm-like body called vermis and two lateral lobes, right and left cerebral hemispheres. Cerebellum is divided into three parts by three methods. First is anatomical division, second phylogenetic division, and third is physiological division. Anatomical division, on the basis of the structure, it is divided into three parts: anterior lobe, posterior lobe, and flocculonodular lobe. Anterior lobe consists of lingula, central lobe, and culmen. It is separated from the posterior lobe by the primary fissure. Posterior lobe consists of lobulus simplex, and tuber, pyramid, and two cerebral hemispheres, lobulus ensiformis and paramedian. Next is flocculonodular lobe, which consists of nodulus and the lateral extension called flocculus. It is separated from the rest of the cerebellum by the posterior lateral fissure. Next, phylogenetic division. On the basis of the phylogeny, it is divided into two divisions: paleocerebellum and neocerebellum. Paleocerebellum is the oldest part of the cerebellum. It includes lingula, central lobe, and culmen, pyramid, ovula, paraflocculi, and next is neocerebellum, which is a new part of the cerebellum. It includes dislive and tuber and two hemispheres, ensiform and paramedian. Next is physiological division. On the basis of the function, it is divided into three parts: vestibulocerebellum, spinocerebellum, and corticocerebellum. Vestibulocerebellum consists of flocculonodular lobe. Next, spinocerebellum, which include lingula, central lobe, pyramid, ovula, lobulus simplex, and medial part of cerebral hemisphere, which are ensiform lobe and paramedian lobe. And corticocerebellum consists of the lateral part of the ensiform lobe and paramedian lobe.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today my topic is all the layers of the cerebellum and the cell performing. First of all, cerebellum. Cerebellum has consist of the three layers. First of all is the molecular layer, second is the Purkinje cell layers, and the third is the granular cell layers. First of all, we discuss about the diagram and the Musi fibers. Musi fibers are the neurotransmitter releases the glutamate. It is the stimulatory fiber. The input of the Musi fiber is the midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, and the vestibule. The mechanism of the Musi fibers is Musi fibers are towards away the glomerular cells, and the other is the collateral to the cerebellar nuclei. The glomerular cells connect with the granular cells and the Golgi cells. All cells are the inhibitory except the granular cells. It is the stimulatory cells and releases the glutamate. All cells are the inhibitory except the granular cells. It is stimulatory cells and releases the glutamate. Granular cells, molecular layer, these are parallel and stimulatory to the dendrites of the Purkinje cells. Musi fibers indirect stimulate the Purkinje cell layers. Purkinje cell layers is the fox shaped, and it releases the it is the inhibitory GABA releases. Basket cells and the citillate cells. Basket cells is the transverse fibers to the soma of the Purkinje cells. It is the inhibitory cells except to the granular cells, and the citillate cells are the inhibitory cells. It inhibits the dendrites of the Purkinje cells. The last of the climbing fibers. Climbing fibers, the input of the climbing fibers of the proprioception and the motors. Climbing fibers inferior via inferior olivary nucleus and towards away the climbing fibers. Climbing fibers are the olivocerebellar tract because it is olivocerebellar tract. It starts from the olivary nucleus and ends of the cerebellar cortex. It stimulates the dendrites of the Purkinje cells direct. All cells are inhibitory except the granular cells. Then it releases the GABA to the cerebellar nuclei. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shahroz Tariq. Today's my topic is brainstem and cerebellum. Today we discuss about cerebellum and fibers within the cerebellum. The cerebellum consists of three layers: granular layer, peroxiform layer, and Purkinje cell layer. In the cerebellum there are two types of fibers. Modi fibers and climbing fibers. Modi fiber and climbing fibers both are stimulatory. First of all, we study about Modi fiber. Modi fiber take its efferent from pons, medulla, spinal cord, and vestibule. Then Modi fibers move towards the granular layer and stimulate the granular cell via glomerulus, and these fibers move upward towards the peroxiform layer and form parallel fiber layer. At the same time, Modi fibers also stimulates Golgi cells, which also move upward towards the peroxiform layer and inhibits the parallel layer, inhibits the parallel fiber. Inhibits the parallel fiber. All the cells in the cerebellum are inhibitors except granular cells. In the simple way, we can say that the Modi fibers can stimulate the dendrites of peroxiform layer indirectly. Now we discuss about the climbing fiber. Climbing fiber take its efferent from motor fibers and proprioceptions. Then in the as same as Modi fibers, climbing fibers moves upward towards peroxiform layer via the inferior or inferior ovary nucleus. And it can directly stimulates the dendrites of peroxiform layer. Both Modi fibers and climbing fibers both are stimulatory. Modi fiber stimulates glutamate, while the climbing fiber stimulates the aspartate.
Let's talk about projection fibers, associative fibers, and commissural fibers. Associative fibers. These fibers connect the cortical areas of same hemisphere to one another. It is subdivided into two types: short adjacent fibers, which connects the adjacent gyri to one another; long associative fibers, which connects the widespread gyri in the same hemisphere. For example, uncinate fasciculus, superior and inferior longitudinal fasciculus, cingulum, and fronto-occipital fasciculus. Commissural fibers. These fibers connect the corresponding areas of two hemispheres to one another. These also include the commissures of cerebellum. For example, corpus callosum, habenular commissure, commissure of fornix, hypothalamic commissure. Corpus callosum is the largest commissural fiber of the brain. It connected two hemispheres to one another. It is about 10 cm long in man. It coordinates the activities of two hemispheres. Projection fibers. These fibers connect the cerebral cortex to the other parts of CNS, for example, brainstem and spinal cord. The corticospinal tract and corticospine tracts are made up of projection.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tadarsh. Today we'll talk about the cerebral hemisphere and vermis, which is the part of a cerebellum. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the cerebral hemisphere. In this, we have this diadochokinesia. In this, two opposite work never occurs at one time. For example, supination and coronation. This supination and coronation. Patient cannot do at one time supination and coronation. Then next we have dysmetria. In this, patient cannot do indented movements such as in this we do finger to nose test. For example, we ask the patient to touch his nose, but he cannot touch his nose. And lethargy in the limbs of the patient. Now, in the cerebral hemisphere, there is a salad speech, hypotonia of the patient. Hypotonia of the patient. Patient cannot speak quickly. There is a salad speech of the patient. Then we talk about vermis. Vermis is the part of cerebellum. When this is damaged, then we do a test of the patient. This test is called Roman's test. And in this test, when the vermis of the cerebellum is damaged, then patient can close his eyes, and then there is staging in the patient, and the patient if a vermis of the cerebellum is damaged, then patient cannot stand with open eyes. Then open eyes, and patient cannot stand. There is staging, and if dorsal column medial lemniscus tract is damage of the patient, then with the closed eyes patient cannot stand. There is lethargy, staggering in the patient. Vermis of the cerebellum is damaged, then patient cannot stand with open eyes. Then open eyes, and patient cannot stand. There is staggering, and if dorsal column medial lemniscus tract is damage of the patient, then with the closed eyes patient cannot stand. There is lethargy, staggering.
Assalamualaikum. Here is Anwar Abidin. I am the student of Osh International Medical University. Today's my topic, function of cerebellum. Let's start. The cerebellum, which is Latin for little brain, and is the major structure of hand brain that is located near the brainstem, and this part of brain is responsible for the coordinative value of voluntary movements, and it is also responsible for the numbers of function, including motor skills such as balance, coordination, and posture. And its location. The cerebellum is the largest structure of the hindbrain and can be found in the back portion of skull, below the temporal and occipital lobes, and behind the brainstem. Cerebellar cortex, a layer containing folded tissue containing most of cerebral neurons, and segment cerebellum, the innermost part of the containing nerve cell that is communication informational for the